I think that it's like the connections with people. Like I know that me and you have always like for some reason we've always met like a couple or like some friends like on our trip and
on
like
a cruise.
yeah, and then like we have them on Facebook and it's just like it's cool like to be like hey, like at one moment in time we were all hanging out like having a great time and like I can still see them and be like, hey, they're doing good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just like a really like meaningful feeling, even if like I guess it's just like the feeling of meeting people that are completely different from you that like grow up somewhere completely different than you are or than you have, and then but being able to kind of like still connect in some way, you know, like I think there's something really special about that.
Do you think people need to push through the awkwardness of meeting someone so they can get to that point? Have you ever met a friend that you weren't friends with, like you maybe a coworker or someone you're kind of forced to be around because they're a friend of a friend?
Yeah.
And you're like, I would never be that person's friend.
Yeah.
And then you end up being really good friends with that person.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, I'm so glad. Like, I don't think I would have met you under any other circumstances.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did. Don't you think there's something to pushing through that uncomfortability that like if you can get past some stuff, there's sometimes some really cool stuff there?
Yeah, there definitely is. I feel like when people are meeting people that are different than them, like I see this all the time, like a lot of the time people get used to meeting people that are just like them, which is great, right? Because, you know, then it's kind of a reflection of you and like you guys are kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And all of that. But for me personally, and I don't know if it's just my personality, but I love meeting people that are different than me because then I'm allowed to like understand, or I'm able to understand them and their experiences. And so I'm like growing.
Do you find joy in that?
Yeah, I do. And I think that like it doesn't feel uncomfortable for me to meet new people. But to answer your question, I think that it's important if it did feel uncomfortable for me to meet new people to push myself
to figure that out.
To figure that, like, why does it feel uncomfortable? Like, is it because I don't feel comfortable with somebody that's different than me because I'm afraid of something? Is it because I'm afraid of, is it a self-esteem thing where I feel like I'm not, like, interesting enough for this person, or is it just that you like there could be different things that are the reason why it feels uncomfortable, right? But for me personally, like I feel like I'm able to meet people, and even though they're completely different than me in some ways, I'm able to find something that like is similar too.
Do you think that's easy, or do you think that you have to kind of push yourself to find those things?
It's natural for me. Like, I feel like if I meet somebody, like, if I were to meet somebody that is, like, maybe, say, completely different, older, like, super young or something, and, like, I feel like I would find, like, not that I'm searching, I just naturally find something that I like about them, maybe. Maybe it's just that I like about them, and then I'm interested in them, or, like, I care about them as a person or something.
Yeah.
And so then it's natural to me. It's not like I'm like I don't think I've ever had a friend, or even like your friends, like that have like girlfriends or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I have to figure out a way to get along with this person, or I have to figure out something that I like about this person. Like you
feel like you can kind of always find something regardless.
Yeah, like it's just natural to do that, right?
I could see that with you, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that people deserve to be understood, or at least attempted to be understood. And I think we owe people that. We owe people that time to try to get to know them. But I'm weird about it because I think I've met so many different people in my life that I understand that there's kind of something to like about everyone.
Yeah.
People have their no's, and they have their like, most of it's related to trauma. Like if you had an aggressive dad that had a ponytail, you don't want to meet people that have ponytails. And that sounds silly, but you ever see a man with a ponytail, you're like, fuck that guy. Like, it's normal. To us, it sounds silly. Like, how dare you, like, judge someone off? But it's traumatic to them, and so they cut out everyone with ponytails. But how many awesome people have ponytails?
Yeah.
Someone with a ponytail is watching this podcast right now. Like, me. I'm the awesome guy with a ponytail. the reality of it is there's awesome people, and I'm just
Yeah.
using it as an example. You have to kind of push through that. I think identifying what your things are and just kind of like understanding, like, hey, this is a thing. This is a thing. I have X, Y, and Z. It's identifying your vices, right? If you're someone in recovery from drugs or alcohol, it's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
You don't just go, I'm just going to avoid bars. If you're an
Right.
alcoholic, you don't go, I'm going to avoid bars. You have to really look into it. Well, what really offends me? Why did I start drinking in the first place? Because
Yeah.
maybe bars don't make me want to drink. Maybe it's aggressive men because my dad was mean to me. And so when a man get aggressive, it triggers me to want to drink.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just making this stuff up.
Yeah.
But that's a real thing. And if you don't identify that, you spend your whole life avoiding bars, and maybe there's really cool people at bars. And trust me, there's plenty of alcoholics that are in recovery that go to bars and they feel comfortable. There's plenty that don't.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is you never want to pull an option from the table that could lead you to meeting someone, something, some person that could lead to something great.
Yeah.
But if you don't identify what your thing is, you're cutting off unnecessary things. Can you imagine an electrician that comes to your home and is like, we're just going to cut all these cords?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them's faulty. So I'm just going to cut them all. Just because. We're going to replace all of them too. Don't worry. You're like, what? Like, you can't like isolate this. You know what I mean? You can't figure out where the bad stuff's coming from to save all the good stuff. You know what I mean? And can we just fix the one thing?
Yeah.
But you're never going to get to that point if you're not even trying to ask questions or figure it out. You got to figure out, what are my triggers? What are my vices? What are the things that upset me? And are those things blocking me from meeting people? What things hurt my feelings? What things could I work on? Because maybe I'm missing out on some awesome people that are only just triggering me. They're really great people. And they're really awesome.
Yeah.
And they really, it's me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be 80 and figure that shit out. I want to be now. I want to figure it out now. And so I think that's important for people to realize, like, you decide who's around you. If your life isn't so good, you're making some choices that aren't great. I promise you. It's all, as someone who's not had a great life because of choices that I was making that weren't so great, I make better choices, my life gets better. I mess up and make a bad one, my life gets a little worse. It's not the end of the world. You make some double time good ones and you get back on track. It's fine. But if you're stuck in this weird low kind of like feeling like shit about yourself, you know, like I'm out of shape and like like I can't like no one really wants to hang out with me. I made a joke the other day and no one laughed at it, and like I went out and I can't meet any girls, and like I come home and I'm eating food I hate, and you know what I mean, but I know like I just crave them, and then I want to get high, and so I start doing these drugs, you know what I mean, and then that's how it is.
Yeah.
Just change one small thing. Like, just try to do something different, and don't just change the surface level stuff. What makes me happy? What makes me happy that I could do more of? What scares me?
Yeah.
How do I get over these fears?
Yeah.
Because maybe these fears are crippling and I'm missing out on the world because of these fears.
Yeah, I think for me, for a while, like, I could relate to that. Like, with fears, I think that like, growing up, there was like friends that I had that like weren't, like, didn't have my best interest in mind, and like did some really hurtful things, and so I think that like
to you, or like
yeah,
in
like
general?
like to me, like spreading rumors, or like lying, or stealing, or just things that are obviously not good. So like I think for me, I've always kind of like felt like, okay, I am able to connect with this person, but then if I foresee something in them that I can't trust, then I like kind of pull myself away a little bit. But I think now, like, I've kind of noticed that like acknowledging that like fear and kind of just like letting it go, and I think my beliefs have really helped. Like I know in the last podcast, like I've talked about like energy and like what you put out, you get back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like whenever I'm not fearing it, and when I'm just like focusing on the good things about people, yeah, they may still do things that are hurtful, but really it's like about them, right? Like, so if somebody like does something that like, I don't know, like hurts my feelings, like say they talk bad about me.
Yeah.
Behind my back or something. To my face, they're nice, but then like behind my back, they're like saying things about me. In reality, like I'm to a place in my life where I've evolved enough to think it's really them. You know what I mean? Whatever they're talking about, like about me. So say like, for instance, if somebody, for example, was like, yeah, I really don't like how Laura, I don't know, is lazy or something, right? It's really their insecurity about being lazy that is making them realize or think about how I'm lazy. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really not
but
about me.
Is that always true? or is it sometimes true? Because if I thought that you were lazy, which I don't, but let's say I did,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe some people do. I don't think it would be because I'm lazy. I think people do things because they're judgmental. I
Well,
think people don't understand. And I think, and you might be right. My point is that maybe not always, right? Thinking about myself, there's things and times where I've done stuff, but the reality of it is I'm not really looking at all the facts. It's easy to call someone without a job lazy, and you have a job, so obviously I'm not referring to you.
Right.
But let's take the concept of someone that's lazy. If someone that doesn't have a job, what are some quick biases we can do? They're lazy. That's one of the first ones you would think of, right? But is it not possible that there's other things? You know what I mean? So is it weird that I think that that person's lazy, or am I just uneducated? You know what I mean? And so my point is, and I don't mean like this isn't to be combative at all, right? Because
Right.
I think that you're right a lot of the time. If someone's calling you lazy, maybe it's because they're lazy and they're projecting it. That happens all the time. That's for
Right.
sure a thing. But maybe someone's calling you lazy because they don't know, because they haven't take the time to dive into the reasons. They were quick to see you in a situation and call you that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was because they saw you get up and come back and you didn't take a dish, right? And maybe in their head, in their house, they go like, well, every time we get up, we take the dishes away. She didn't do that. Should she not know it's there? Maybe she's lazy. Maybe they're thinking that. But that doesn't mean that she's lazy, because in her situation, in her head, whoever it is, they do take the dish. And so they're judging you because they don't know all the facts, and they think it's okay to put a label on someone quickly based off what they think they know. And so I think that happens a lot too, where people just quickly go, it must be that. You're a criminal, so you must be a bad person. They forget that sometimes innocent people go to jail. Do we dive into what someone did? Do we dissect stuff? As human beings, we make that mistake a lot. But I think it's important to look further. So it's not just people that are talking about themselves. And I say this as someone like, I'll use a perfect example for myself. I feel a certain way about my mom, but I'm not that way. So I'll give you that example. Like, I think my mom is not attentive, and I think that she's not loving, and she's not like aware, and she doesn't put in effort. But I'm not any of those things. I'm all those things. I think that I do love, and I do put in effort, and I do care. And so I think that I'm not allowed, I shouldn't be judging anyone, right? But if in that case, I'm really doing it because I don't truly understand my mom. And I'm saying this objectively as someone who's biased, right? I'm admitting right now I'm biased. I think that. But you know what? If I really put in time and effort, I can probably figure out what happened to my mom when she was a kid for her to not be so attentive to me. Yeah. What trauma has she gone through that, you know what I mean? I could really dive in there, but I choose not to because I feel like it's not my responsibility as the son. But I'm relating as a human being that's quick to say something and feel something, but I don't think that I'm doing it because of me. I think I'm doing it because I don't know.
But I think all of that is true, but the big picture, like, I think, like in your example about the dish, right? In that example, the person that is seeing somebody as being lazy for not putting back the dish means that person would view themselves as being lazy if they had the opportunity to put back the dish and they didn't. Rather than somebody that's a little bit open-minded and has a different belief that, like, hey, sometimes I need to relax, and if I don't put back the dish, that's okay.
I see what you're saying.
You know
that
what
actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you're saying, like, you're not saying, maybe that's what it was. You didn't fully explain what you're saying, because that makes total sense. You're saying that my version, in my head, someone that doesn't put away dishes is lazy, if I was this person, right?
Right.
But in another situation, someone that doesn't put away a dish is just a regular person who doesn't put away dishes. So you're saying that's about them.
It is about them, yeah. And
I see what you're saying. That
and
makes
like
more
in
sense.
your situation, like with your mom, and right, like you felt that in your past. So even though you're not that,
mom should do those things.
Yeah. So then you have that in your mind of being like, it should be this way. So when people are not that way, then you focus on that, if that makes sense, rather than somebody like maybe.
Well, I don't even know if I focus on it. Like I would. I see what you're saying. If I was at a friend's house and their mom wasn't being attentive and was kind of like this certain way, I think I might feel the same way. So maybe I think you're onto something there. I think you have a great point. So it's a weird thing, right? You have to like kind of dive into that. Yeah.
It's really weird, and kind of like back to what I was explaining about, like feeling afraid of people, because they maybe do certain things that are hurtful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is just kind of seeing that way. Like, if somebody is being really, like telling me something about my life, it's really because that's how they feel about their life, right? And that's okay if that's how they feel about themselves. It's really not about me, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that has really freed me to be able to, like, not fear being close to people that, like, maybe do have situations where they are working through certain things, right? Like self-esteem or confidence or, whatever it is. Like, sometimes it projects on other people, and it's like about being aware of it instead of like internalizing it, being like, oh, well, it's because they don't like me because I'm this and this.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think we're both onto something there because that makes complete sense. I think the overall thing is we should really take an effort to get more information, would you say, right? And kind of understand that, like, things that are important to you aren't also important. They may not be important to someone else, but it doesn't diminish that person either. Like, they have their own world and set of things that they believe in.
Yeah.
And they have the right to do that too.
Yeah, and that's only when it's, like, I think, projected. Because I feel like people can relate to that. Like, when it's about meeting new people, they see, like, okay, like, for example, somebody that, like, say it's two girls, right? And there's a girl that, like, is super conscious of her looks and is always, like, talking about other girls' looks and how they're not good enough and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then you as a friend are like, oh, like, I wonder if, like, she's talking bad about my looks, right? But in reality, it's that girl's insecurities that is projecting, and it's like...
Well, I think patterns tell a lot too. So
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. If someone's always talking about something cheating, right? If there's a guy who's always talking about cheating, it's like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's thinking about this consistently when I'm not around because he also brings it up when I'm here. There must be more to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, like, sometimes, yeah, like, obviously if it's a situation where you're meeting somebody new and, like, they're doing something that's, like, risky that could harm you, then I guess obviously that's different. But, like, I think when meeting people and, like, trying to, like, trust people, I've learned that, like, it's really, like, the things that you sometimes see them bring out in you are really more about them. And so, like, kind of just don't need to focus on them.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that clip, click on this link right over here to subscribe to this clip's channel. Or if you want to view the entire conversation, go ahead and click on this link over here to view the entire podcast. Bet you on the next one, guys.